and it's psychedelia and space rock. And I first saw this band in 1972 for £3.10, and I brought the T-shirt back tonight because I want a refund, or I've got fatter. Anyway, it's a real pleasure to be here. And space rock, tell us about it.
Interesting question.
Yeah.
Songs about science fiction and space, and also dystopian futures.
Dystopian futures.
Yeah.
That sounds like bad language.
No, so it's the same. It's like the books of J.G. Ballard and stuff like Blade Runner, where things are slightly gone wrong. People are living piled up in cities close together.
And it's a genre of music that you've sort of owned, haven't you, for 45 years, more or less.
Well, it's our influence on the all these young bands. Lots of nice bands that are around. I mean, we went off to Portugal, didn't we? Just recently did a lovely psychedelic festival there. And there's a lot of interesting bands from Europe. It's like a revitalisation of psychedelia. So
there's a lot of influence, isn't there, of bands?
We're the old boys of it, really.
Yeah, but I mean, you've influenced a whole generation of bands, such as... Who do you think is coming on?
Just looking at the bands that were at the Portugal thing, I mean, you know, I don't want to name them all, but you can look
at
down
the list.
And,
Bands like Mugstar and even the black metal bands.
Yeah.
There's a band called Watain that
yes.
you wouldn't necessarily tell it from their music, but they were heavily influenced.
Quite often their fathers had collected Hawkwind records, and they've listened to them when they're very young and become influenced by those three chords with
Gosh, they're groovy.
I'd like to, yes.
And a lot of dance music was influenced by Hawkwind as well.
Indeed it was, all that stuff, yeah. So there's been huge sort of influences. Brian Blessed, is he here?
No,
not tonight.
How did you get together with him? I do know the story, but perhaps the other people don't. So tell us.
Because of the badgers, the destruction of the badgers by farmers, and Brian is actually, and Brian May, working with Brian May to stop all this, which is not necessarily to kill the badgers, it's the inoculation of cattle, which would stop all this.
Bad farming practices.
Bad farming practices, too much eating of meat, unnecessary.
Yeah.
Okay. And 45 years, you did a space ritual thing, was it last year? Are you got any plans for this year? Sorry, I don't know which year it is.
It was
in February.
What are you planning? You got any plans to do anything else in that sort of area coming up?
No, it was just a special one-off. Specifically for, where it was the badgers, there was Doris Bannerman. The saving the bears in Asia, you know, because the bile bears, lots of bad things going on for animals, basically.
Badgers and Doris Banham Dogs Trust.
Yeah. And just in case there are any musicians out there listening to this, when I first saw you, it was all sort of VCS3 synths, and these are like a wild animal, aren't they, to control?
Still used.
But now you've got theremins controlling all your stuff. I mean, how have you coped with all of that technology?
I mean, obviously there is a lot of technology involved in the band, and there always has been, to my knowledge, and obviously, like you said...
Yeah, you were pioneers, actually.
Well, I wasn't, but Dave and his chums back in the day were very much into their sweeping oscillators and things, and this has been carried forwards, but they've still got all that old gear in the studio, but what we do now for ease of use and just to make life a bit more fun and pleasant, because they do get a bit unreliable, but since we've just put a lot of it onto the computer, so there's all still the same sounds, which can be freely played, but they're, you know, on modern day computers. Yeah.
So how do you still manage to instill fun into digital equipment that does more or less what you want? How do you manage?
I mean, the erraticness.
How do you build in erraticness?
Oh, go on then. No, you're the one who operates the mag.
Pressing the wrong button.
Pressing the wrong button.
Without being all anorak about it and keeping it short, I mean, computers and the software have developed to the point of they are very playable tools in this day and age, and the things that I use on stage, I can chop and change stuff. It's absolutely free form. So if Dave says, you know, extend the solo by 16 bars, I can just, okay. So it's not all karaoke, it's just pure. One plays the computer.
The thought of Hawkwind karaoke is sort of going around in my mind at this point, like a sort of a word.
Banish that thought.
Banish that thought immediately. Erase it.
What's your plans for next on your agenda of things you're doing?
We're doing When the Machine Stops, actually, which is Foster wrote the book. It was in 1906. When you read that, have you ever read it?
No, I
So
haven't.
it's a short story actually. If you read it, you can probably download it off the internet. It's quite an interesting story, and it totally reflects on what's going on now. How people actually become influenced by computers, technology. What we're talking about, living in their own little worlds. You think, how did this guy visualise that people would have computers, and they're not feeling well? They sort of this thing comes down over their head, and they become better, and they can only talk to each other through screens
So like
internet,
good
you know?
science fiction, Michael Moorcock and all that sort of comes true.
Yeah, I mean, but it's like this guy had a time machine because it's they speak to the conferences are all done there. They don't go out of the little bubbles and they don't touch each other. Like, they very rarely go out and move about the planet. They're all underground in the little caves. Everything's provided from the bath comes up from the floor. If they want to listen to music.
You know.
It just gets piped through, just like the internet now, just like Facebook.
Just like the
So you have been down to Chatham High Street, obviously. So the big question is, where is the fish?
Be careful. There he is.
There's the fish.
It's the
There's the
theremin
fish.
It's the theremin fish. Hang on.
It's the fish rising.
There we go.
Oh, it's like John Otway's a theremin thing.
Give it back. Oh,
Thank you, guys. Cheers, that man.